Today, we're looking at Noodler's Purple Wampum. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Noodler's Purple Wampum is a purple ink. And to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples, I put the ink into a different pen for a day, words, and then I put it into a Levenger TrueWriter with a broad nib to take my notes for this video. Now, before we go to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is the chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And what we see is this purple is really holding on to the paper quite aggressively. It is pushing its way up as a purple pretty evenly, but then you've got this kind of grayish across the top. So there's some gray to make it a bit darker and richer as a tone. The one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And it is really digging in on this filter paper. Very dark purple line across the bottom. Light purple pushes its way up. We see that light gray again, a little more pronounced in the one we let dry. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pen. Now, I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I see no fear in a note-taking situation. There was only the slightest bit of budge that occurred at the top of the lowercase h. The slightest bit. Now, looking at water, it barely budged any of the ink. You have to look really close directly to the left of the H of the H2O. Very little ink moved. This is quite resistant, and it really does show when you look at what the pen flush did. Pen flush started removing all of those darker purple tones, left all the light, it really was struggling with only 30 seconds. I don't think pen flush is going to be enough. Now, a 1/3 bleach solution is completely removing it from the page. It did stain the page yellow. I do think it takes a 1/3 bleach solution, and it did take me quite a bit of effort to clean this out of my pen. Now, if you have to use a 1/3 bleach solution, you use it quickly, then get it out and immediately flush that from your pen so you don't rust your metal parts. But I would make sure that you use it with a more inexpensive pen first. Although I didn't have any staining problems, I would hate to stain an expensive pen. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Noodler's Purple Wampum has a viscosity of 1.36. Not only is this ink dense, it is super, super wet. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done with the extra fine and medium nib on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Noodler's Purple Wampum has an average dry time of 16 seconds, making it absolutely normal for how wet and dense this ink is. Now, let's look at the writing samples. I picked this ink up in sample form, and to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairefontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 gives no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. The extra fine is the exact same tone with no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade, 11 seconds to dry. The medium is the exact same tone again with no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade, 13 seconds to dry. The scrubby shows us no color variation, and we got none. The smear test, you could probably recover this if you smeared while you were writing. And then we get to see some of that really nice purple that's there. I don't get to see it up here. I get to see it here. It's unfortunate. Tomoe River, no bleeding, tons of ghosting. Of course, it is Tomoe River, so it is known for ghosting, along with doing very well in some other things. It does. It's a nice paper. It's not my favorite paper. Far from it. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is the exact same tone as the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo sheen, or shade. It took 19 seconds to dry. The medium is the exact same tone as the extra fine. It has no feather, spread, halo sheen, or shade. 22 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it and we didn't get it. In the smear test, you could not recover this at all, ever, if you smeared while you were writing. But you get to see that beautiful purple that you do not see up here. We're going to see a theme. Rhodia, no bleeding, no ghosting. And while I say no bleeding on Rhodia, I took my notes with broad nib on Rhodia. And look at the ghosting. Look at the bleed spots. It didn't touch the page underneath, but man, oh man, do not use this with a broad because, wow, that's not nice. No bleeding and no ghosting here, though. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is the exact same tone with no feather, spread, halo sheen, or shade. 13 seconds to dry. The medium again is the exact same tone with no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. 16 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both shows no color variation, and we got none. The smear test, you could definitely recover this if you smeared it, and you get to see that really nice purple that is not coming through up here. Enter theme. Gilelo. It's a nice laid paper. It's got no bleeding, no ghosting. Some of the hope was that since it's so dark, maybe, it looks good on here. And it does not look bad on this paper. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. The extra fine is the exact same tone. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. 8 seconds to dry. Man, my mouth got dry all of a sudden. Sorry about that. 8 seconds to dry for the extra fine. The medium is the exact same tone as the extra fine and the medium. It has no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade. 10 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine and the medium show no color variation, and we got none. And the smear test, you get to see some of that lovely purple that you do not see up here. I'd really like to know who out there really likes this ink. Just because I'm not a fan. This is original Crown Mill. It's a really nice laid paper again. This did not behave very well on here, kind of like what we were seeing with the broad nib. The 1.1 had a lot of bleed spots. It did not touch the page underneath. Didn't come all the way through. A lot of spotting going on. Got a few spots going on also in the extra fine. Strange. Nothing in the medium. No real ghosting, though. More on camera than in person. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. The extra fine is the exact same tone with no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. 7 seconds to dry. The medium is the exact same tone. So it's a boring ink that it's very predictable. I don't mind that in inks. I don't mind that they're the exact same. I call it boring, meaning I know exactly what I'm going to get, but I would like to get something I like. I just don't. The medium has no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade. 8 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine and the medium show no color variation, and we got none. And the smear, you could recover this if you smeared while you were writing, and you get to see some of that lovely purple. P. Berger paper. It's a French rule paper. It's a student grade paper, so it's not the best in the world, and I didn't have the highest expectations. And it was a good thing I did not have the highest expectations, because man, oh man, did it bleed. But it did not touch the page underneath. You just cannot use the back of this page for anything. The 1.1 has no spread. It has feathering
all over it. Tiny little feathers all over it. And in some areas, so much it looks blurry. No halo, sheen, no shade. The extra fine is the exact same tone. It has no spread. It has tiny feathers all over it. Some of the words look blurry to me in person. They look like they're clearing up a little bit on camera, but it's got a ton of little feathers all over it. Ew. 3 seconds to dry. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the feathering. I'm just stuck on how gross this is. No halo, sheen, or shade. 3 seconds to dry. The medium is the exact same tone. The medium has spread. The medium has feathering. It has no halo, no sheen, no shade. This is gross on this paper. It's gross. Ew. 3 seconds to dry, just like the extra fine. The scrubby for both show no color variation, and we didn't get any. And the smear test says you could recover if you smeared while you were writing, and you get to see some of that purple that would have been nice to see in the writing. And that is all that I have for the writing sample.
Instead of finding inks that look like Noodler's Purple Wampum, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. And it's such a dark purple, I wanted a very bright ink to go with it. A nice pink, like Robert Oster's Pinky. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Noodler's Purple Wampum? As a swab, I love its color. In its writing, I hate it. It's such a dark purple that it might as well be black. And it's not particularly well behaved. I use a lot of broad nibs, and using a broad nib, it's very aggressive on the paper, causing a lot of bleeding problems. This is an ink that, unless you're in love with this particular ink, I don't know, I would be careful. Thanks for watching.